about next semester's, which is going to be starting in September. We're going to be working on a new topic that I think you're really going to enjoy. So plan on coming next fall on Wednesdays as well. We decided, given all the things that are going on now in terms of the economy and government, that we would focus all of next semester's open classroom, the fall semester, on the following topic. What is the role of government in the 21st century? So we're going to look at local government, state government, federal government. We're going to look at questions of, should government be involved in economic development? Should government be involved in what kinds of regulation? Should government be, our healthcare provider? 1,000 interesting questions. And we're going to have a pretty fascinating group of co-instructors. Michael Dukakis will be joining us. I'll be with you. Nani Burns, who is on our staff now and the former insurance commissioner of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we're hoping that Ted Kelly will join us as well. Ted is the CEO and president of Liberty Mutual here, the insurance company. And so we're going to have a pretty fascinating set of classes, and we expect to have an unbelievable all-star cast again of guest speakers. So stay tuned for fall 2011, the open classroom. Second of all, I want to remind you, because most of you have been here with us most of the semester, but where we've come, and then these last two lectures that will look at kind of international questions. You may remember that we began our very first class looking at the demographics of the family and the changing demographics thereof. Kathy Eden graced us, Harvard, Department of Sociology, looking at the whole question of what she called fragile, complex families, and the changing nature of marriage and the changing nature of the family. We looked at questions of community, neighborhood, migration, immigration. We look then at the workplace and the changing workplace, particularly how demography is affecting it, both the aging of the workforce as well as the changing racial and ethnic, as well as gender composition of the workforce, and how that might affect where the American economy is going. We looked at the whole question of kind of visualizing the American city and how it changed. You may remember, for those of you who are with us, we had Peter van der Varker, probably one of the most renowned, if not the most renowned photographer of architecture, maybe in the world, but really taking us through how architecture followed immigration. And we looked also at the Hispanic effect, the Hispanic cultural effect on our housing here in the United States. We then had, as you may remember, a wonderful session with Dan Okrent, formerly of Time Magazine and Life Magazine and New York Times, on older industrial cities. And we looked at Detroit, where I grew up, and really saw the demographic change there. And if you're following the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, a whole slew of articles, one just this morning, on how the young center of Detroit, a 35-year-old woman, has to do this extraordinary shrinking a city rather than trying to figure out how to make it grow. We then looked at some questions of whether demography and the aging of the population would bankrupt the Commonwealth. If, in fact, we're aging as rapidly as the census suggests, we asked the question, who's going to do the work and who's going to pay the taxes? We don't have a perfect answer for that yet. And then we went on to whether America can afford all us old people. Can we afford Social Security? Can we afford Medicare? And of course, we focused a lot on health care because that really does seem to be the challenge, not just the demography of it, but overall the rising cost and utilization of it. So now we come to April. We come to springtime. And we have today, and I'll introduce him in a minute, Professor Martin White of Harvard, who's going to talk about China. I've joked with some friends, because I don't know much China except for the time I've spent there, that here is China, which has a one-child policy, which means that in the first generation you have sisters. In the second generation there are no brothers, no sisters, no cousins, no aunts, no uncles. It's a surprise that they could ever have anything that looked like Thanksgiving dinner. How do you find the folks for it? There are articles out from The Economist magazine some time ago suggesting that China will be overcome by India, that India will overcome China because China's going to run out of young people pretty much the way Japan has. So we're going to look at that today. And then next week, just as a preview of coming attractions, we have two marvelous speakers. Larry Lowenthal, formerly director of the American Jewish Committee, who's going to be looking at the demography of Israel. And the question he's going to ask is, given the demographic trends in Israel, can Israel 50 years from now be both democratic and Jewish? Or will that not be possible? And we'll also have our own Dennis Sullivan, head of our International Affairs program, one of the foremost experts on Egypt, look at the whole question of the birth rate of Egypt, the growing youth population, many of whom we saw in the streets of Tahrir Square. What is the future of Egypt? I spent some time in Egypt with him a couple years ago. Okay, is that a little better? Can we turn this up again? Is that a little better? Good. I'm sorry about that. So we'll be looking at that question. We're going to look at Egypt. That's going to give us, starting with the communities, looking at this really international look at democracy. But before we start, Margaret Morgan, our co-op student, has produced for us another little video for us to put us in the mood. And can I just hit something here and start it? Cool. Probably not the traditional Chinese film you expected to see, but if you visit Shanghai or Beijing or Hangzhou, where we spend some time, that's what China is starting to look like. So today, we have Professor Martin White with us. Professor White is a specialist in comparative sociology. He studies the sociology of the family, the sociology of development, and particularly he has been spending a lot of time on the sociology of contemporary China and post-communist transitions. He's written a great deal in this field, including books on China's revolutions and intergenerational relations. He's been looking more recently at new survey research data, which he and colleagues have been working on. His first surveys go back to 2000, and now he's involved in new survey research with colleagues that began in 2009, and I understand will continue for the next 3 to 4 years of many of these relations. So without further ado, Professor Martin White of Harvard University.